Hey, what's going on guys? Welcome back to another video. Now it's almost been 2 years since the last time I shot a video, and to be fair, it's mainly because of you guys that I'm back. I've heard a lot of positive feedback, read a lot of positive comments in the comment section of especially the CZ cross-legged video, and there's been a lot of requests for when the next set of videos are coming out. So we're back, and I think this will be more of a consistent thing. Fingers crossed. So in today's video, we're going to go over some crucial exercises that will help you to open up your hips. Mainly the piriformis, which is the outer part of the hip, and also the psoas muscles, which is the front of the hips. Only 3 exercises, but they will be guaranteed to help you open up those hips. So let's go. All right, so exercise number 1 is the bench pigeon. So we're basically going to copy the yoga pigeon that most people are already familiar with, and we're going to elevate the surface and use a bench to help us with the limitation of our hips. So you'll see with a normal bench, when it's completely horizontal and flat on the ground, depending on the flexibility of your hips, you will have to angle your leg based on that. Whereas with a incline bench, we can actually change the position of the angle of the bench, which will allow us to sit deeper into the exercise. So what I want you to do is bring the angle up to a position where it's comfortable for you. Ideally around 45 degrees is the place where you want to start. So if your hips are more flexible, then we can just reduce the angle of the bench, or if you're tighter in the hips, then we can just increase the height of the bench. That's basically what we're going to do here. So first thing I want you to do is place your leg on the bench. We want the foot to sit in the crevice of the bench, and then we want to send the back leg back. Now, we don't have to keep that leg fully straight. We can keep it slightly bent for now, and then when we get into the sequence, we'll just take the back knee off the ground. Make sure you're comfortable in position. We can either keep the hands upright, or we can go onto the forearms depending on how comfortable we are. The next thing is to make sure that you're taking some of the weight in the hands. We don't want to load the hips too much, especially when we're warming up. So take as much weight as you need in the hands, and then as the hip starts to open up, just take some of the weight off the hands. The next thing we want to focus on is the position of the body. Now, if you're quite tight in the pigeon, you'll find that you're going to lean towards one side more than the other side. We actually want to be leaning towards the foot side as opposed to the knee side. So if you find your weight is leaning too far towards the knee, just shift the weight over towards the foot. It doesn't have to be perfectly over the foot, but as long as the weight is leaning towards the foot, you're going to feel the maximum benefit in the piriformis, which is the outer part of the hip. From here, we just want to make sure that we're sitting comfortably, so the leg isn't too far down at the back, meaning that the knee is slightly off the ground. All right, so the first movement we're going to go into is a side-to-side movement. All I want you to do here is rock the hips side to side. You can go as gentle as you want, or you can go as rapid as you want. It depends on how you're feeling that day. We're going to try and aim for about 10 to 12 repetitions, depending on how we're feeling. So if we're feeling like we need a bit more time in the movement, feel free to hit more repetitions. So once you've completed your side-to-side movement, we're moving towards the figure 8. It's very similar to the side-to-side. The only difference here is we're going to draw the infinity figure 8 sign, and we're going to do it in a horizontal position. So if you think about the position of the bench, we're over the bench, and we're going to draw the 8 in this sort of direction here. Again, we're going to try and aim for those 10 to 12 repetitions, keeping a constant tempo. And what you'll notice is as the hip starts to warm up and get looser, you should be able to sink the hips down closer to the ground. From here, we're going to go forward and back on the hip. So what I want you to do is curl the toes under at the back, take the back knee off the ground. If you can keep it straight, try and keep it as straight as possible to get the maximum benefit in the hips. But if you're finding that's quite difficult, just make sure you're placing something quite soft underneath the knee to make sure that it's protected. So we're going to rock forward and back in the hips, and we're going to try and aim again for those 10 to 12 repetitions. So from here, we're going to go up and down. So it's the same movement, but we're focusing on trying to drop that knee as close to the ground as possible without touching the ground. If you find that your knee keeps touching the ground and you want to go deeper, slide the back foot back a bit more to give you more space. And the final one is we're going to perform pigeon push-ups. So again, take the weight in the hands. We're going to bring the chest down towards the foot, and we're going to push back up from that position. So we're going into a push-up position whilst remaining in a pigeon. Once you've done these, you're going to feel quite loose in that leg. I want you to repeat the same sequence again on the other leg. Right, so for exercise number 2, we're gonna bring the pigeon down towards the ground. This variation of the pigeon is for anyone that doesn't have a bench or access to a bench, but it's also beneficial if you do have access to a bench and you also want to go a little deeper into your pigeon stretch. So we're going to come down towards the ground. Make sure you've got a mat or something that's quite soft so we're well protected when we're doing the exercise and we're not in discomfort. We want to position ourselves into a standard pigeon. With this, we want to maintain a 90-degree angle at the front leg and then keep our back leg as straight as possible. Make sure the front foot lines up with the back foot when you're doing this exercise. And also, we're gonna go into the outside edge of the front foot and the toes with the back foot. From here, we wanna move our hands forward so then we are in a stable base and we're not collapsing towards that knee side of the pigeon. Make sure your weight is directly above the foot. And you'll notice that the knee will probably want to rise up when you're getting into that side of the foot. If that does happen and you're comfortable, stay in that position. If you're not and you need that leg to be supported, the front leg, then make sure you grab yourself a foam roller or a bolster to help support that position. Also, cushions will do the job too. So we're gonna move our hips side to side as the first movement. So all I want you to do here is place the hands in front of you, take a stable base of the actual exercise, and then you're gonna move your hips side to side. As you're doing this, you're gonna feel a stretch of the psoas muscles at the front, and also you'll feel a stretch on the side of the piriformis of the front leg. We're gonna try and aim for, again, 10 to 12 repetitions. Take your time with this sequence and you should feel like the hip is opening up as you get towards the latter part of the exercise. The next one is a twisting movement. So we're gonna go into the same movement as we did last, but this time we're gonna twist at the front leg. So it's side to side and then you twist at the hip towards the bent knee. This will move the stretch into the piriformis of the front leg. As we're doing this, we want to let that front knee fall to the side. So if you keep the knee up high, it's going to keep the stretch in the psoas of the back hip. So try and let the knee fall to the side. The third movement is a forward and back movement. So for this, I want you to go onto the toes of the back leg, take the knee of the back leg off the ground and try and straighten that leg as much as possible. The straighter your leg is, the stronger you're going to feel that in the psoas or the hip flexor of the back leg. So we're shifting forward and back. We're trying to push the weight as much as possible into the back heel. Keep the weight in the hands. If you find that the hands are feeling uncomfortable, turn the hands out and this will alleviate the stress in the wrist. Or if you prefer, grab yourself some blocks or something to help also alleviate the stress. We can also go into the forearms if you find there's too much stress going through the wrist as well. And the final movement we're going to go into is the pigeon push-up. So it's very similar to the one that we did on the bench. The difference is we're on the ground this time. Again, all I want you to do is make sure your hands are secure on the ground, you're stable, and you're basically going to bring your chest down towards your foot. Go as low as possible. You don't have to go all the way down, but whatever your limitation is, and then push yourself back up. Again, the focus is in the front hip for this exercise. You should feel a really nice stretch in the piriformis. Okay, so the final exercise we're going to go over today is the cable lunge. This exercise will focus purely on the hip flexors of the psoas muscle, but also you'll get a secondary benefit in the dorsiflexion of the front foot. In today's session, we're not really going to focus on that dorsiflexion movement. We just want to get into the best position so we can really target the hip flexor at the back. But later on in future videos, I'll go over the dorsiflexion aspect of this movement. Okay, so to get into position, what I want you to do is sit yourself down on your cable machine. You want to judge the distance of the machine's seat. So for some cable machines in gyms, you find that the seat is wider and longer, and in other places it's just a small triangle to sit on. If you have the one that's a small triangle, grab yourself a bench and you're going to use that to place your foot on. If you've got the longer ones, then you're in luck. So first thing you're going to do is hook the back leg onto the bar at the back. If you don't have a bar, it's fine to just keep the leg up in the air. We're going to bring that clamp that we place the knees under when we're doing a normal cable exercise. We're going to bring it down and lock the calf of the back leg in position so it's not moving around. So make sure it's nice and tight and you're not moving the back leg around too much. In terms of our hands, we want to place them either above our heads or we can hold dumbbells on the side. The default position is hands above our head to keep our back in full extension so we're not leaning forward onto the knee. So in terms of the weight, you want to go with the minimal amount of weight on the cable. This is not about trying to pull the cable above our head. It's basically to keep our back again in that extension position. So in this demonstration, I was using a very, very light plate. So it was just the first plate of the cable machine. Next, the front leg, we're going to go into a dorsiflexion position. We want to be able to push that knee as far forward as possible in order to bring that back hip down towards the ground. So make sure you pull that foot slightly towards your body and not in a 90-degree angle, as in you would do for the normal lunge. This is basically a variation of the ATG split squat, so for anyone that has done that or has done any of the knees over toe stuff, will pretty much be comfortable with this exercise. The second thing is, if you find your dorsiflexion of the front foot or the ankle is poor, then make sure you grab yourself a wedge or even a yoga block or even a dumbbell. If you don't have any of those things at home or in the gym, grab yourself a dumbbell. We're just going to elevate that front foot to cut or minimize the dorsiflexion of the front foot. By doing this, this will allow us to push that knee beyond the line of the toes, and we'll focus exclusively on the back hip. Okay, so for the movement of the lunge, we're not going up and down as we normally do in a conventional lunge. We're going forward and back in an ATG position. So I want you to try and push that knee as far forward as possible. Try and lengthen that back leg. And if you do have a bar at the back, try and create the sensation of pulling that back leg forward. That will intensify the stretch in the hip flexor at the back, and it will give you a much better stretch. We hold that for anything between 1 or 2 seconds, and then we pull ourselves back out and we go again. We're trying to aim for anything between 8 to 10 repetitions for this exercise, but if you feel like you want to go deeper, then by all means increase the volume. As you're seeing me doing this exercise, I'm trying to keep that back in as much extension as possible. So again, I'm not slouching forward with the chest. But for some of you, that might put too much pressure in the lower back. So feel free to swap out holding the cables at the top with dumbbells or kettlebells that you can hold to the side. This will help increase the angle of dorsiflexion of the front leg and keep the weight down on the ankle. So that's a wrap for this video. 3 basic exercises that you can try out. They will really go deep into the hip flexor. They'll give you the flexibility that you want to gain, and it'll also help you to get into other positions that I've demonstrated in previous videos. So if you're trying to achieve the seated cross-legged position, these exercises will really help to try and get lower with the knees. That's pretty much it for this video. Please help support this channel by liking this video, drop a comment, let me know if there's any other exercises you want me to focus on. If you've got any questions about any of the exercises we've performed here, then please do drop them in the comment section as well. That's pretty much it. I will see you in the next video.